Hello and welcome to Bridging the Gap, the television show. I'm Ian Hansen, along with intuitive medium and spiritual advisor Brenda Burgett. Brenda, we are going to embark into the world of the visual medium after having done a radio program together for about 5-6 months.
This is very exciting.
It is extremely exciting, and Bridging the Gap, in case you were wondering, is a project that is designed to help you bridge your own gaps. And what we're talking about, and will in more detail on this edition of the program, kind of get you familiar with what it is that we're doing with Bridging the Gap. Think of it this way, though. If you have an issue with maybe your spouse or in your love life, perhaps you have an issue with your work life and you want to know how you might be able to get a promotion, you want to bridge the gap between yourself and what you want to be as far as your professional world's concerned, we can help with those things. The family pet's having some issues, you can help it bridge the gap. Maybe big stuff in the universe too. We're talking about earth changes, Brenda. We're talking about the cosmos, bridging the gap between your relationship with what's out there and what's on the other side as well.
Possibilities, things you may have been afraid to look at before. We're going to make them a little more comfortable for you, I hope.
Okay, now you mentioned comfort, and maybe that's a place for us to start as far as figuring out where we are with our comfort with what we're talking about, because people may have a spiritual side to them, they may be religious, they may have something that works for them already, but how could Bridging the Gap fit in for someone that feels like they're fairly complete, but maybe you're missing a little bit?
If they feel very comfortable with where they're at, then we're probably not the show for them.
Okay.
But if you're looking for answers that you can't find maybe with conventional ways, and there's something missing in your life, then we might just have some answers for you.
Okay, and again, those answers could be about a myriad of things.
They can be just about anything that you think you're lacking in your life, or too much of, or just figuring out what works for you and what doesn't.
All right, now Brenda, again, you are an intuitive medium, spiritual advisor, and people may be wondering, well, what are those things exactly? You've had a gift since birth, and I think it's important that folks understand what that gift is all about and how it works, if you'd explain.
Okay, it's a knowing. It's a knowing. As a child, I would hear what people were thinking, and they were saying one thing and thinking another, sometimes very upsetting. If you were a child that was a little on the rambunctious side and always in trouble, they'd say, what a cute little girl and what a brat, would be what they were thinking. So it was very early on, very confusing. It's being able to open myself up to be a conduit for energy maybe I have a healing energy. And this is something that's been around for years and years. We're just now being a little more comfortable with it, I think. Lots of people are doing different things. Mine is called reconnection. It was something I learned from a Dr. Eric Pearl. There's a Reiki energy, and it's just whatever works for you. I have a 3rd level Reiki degree, but reconnection is what I use. I've always been able to know when someone didn't feel well. And with this, a lot of times I can know what area they're having a problem with. I believe that almost everything begins with a spiritual, emotional problem, and then it will manifest itself as a physical problem. Animals are probably one of the neatest things. I love being able to tune into an animal and find out what's bothering him, and making the bridge between the owner and animal a little easier and more rewarding. And I also do some channeling is a word that has negative feelings for some people, but I get messages from people who have passed. Not always. But if they left and things were unsettled, many times they'll come back and they'll want to reassure the people left behind. And it will always come with most of the time with me, I see a pet that they've had. One time we saw the lady wanted to know where her blue sweater was. I saw that.
Was it a psychic improv? And you'll find out more about what those are exactly as we continue here. But.
And it's something I would never know. I would just have no way of knowing, which is a way of saying to the person that's asking about their loved one that's passed, this really is me. Do you remember the blonde cocker I grew up with? And sometimes there's always a clue, and I never know what's going on. But I just want to reassure people, we're fine, we're great, it's okay, let us go.
Okay, and again, that's one of the many gifts that you have and that you've honed over the years. And we'll talk more about your history with that gift as Bridging the Gap continues.
Right.
But again, that's a major portion, obviously, of how you can help folks bridge their own gap. And backtracking through what you just talked to us about a little bit, as far as the animal communication is concerned, where we shoot Bridging the Gap, you have 4 or 5 dogs.
I have 4 dogs.
4 dogs.
You may even hear them bark.
So if you hear something emanating through the speakers of your home computer or your DVD or wherever you're listening to this, again, it's not necessarily messages from dogs that have gone beyond, or the ones next door that you're almost ready to call the cops or the pound about. Actually, they could be Brenda's dogs because they're scurrying around here close by. Also, Brenda's gift is hellacious when you have to deal with used car salesmen. So, I mean, again, you talked about saying one thing and thinking another. That's the first thing that popped into my head. I have to buy a car for my wife soon. So, funny though. I mean, and again, we'll get into a little bit of how we came together to do this project, and also a little bit about my history too. Although certainly on the side of what we call Wooj or Wooji, which is this business that Brenda just explained to us a little bit. Although you say that I am gifted, not all of those gifts are as pronounced as Brenda's are just yet. And by the way, you're all gifted in one way or another and can work on these for yourself. But again, in that way, Brenda, you'll come to know, they'll come to know that I'm a bit of jokester, a little humor, and I think humor is a great bridge that can be used.
It's very good. It's something that we use when we need to break the silence, or we need to just have an easier laughing at ourselves situation. It doesn't have to be serious all the time.
Well, because it isn't always necessarily going to be downright serious. The business of buying a used car, think about it. What a luxury that is to be able to purchase a conveyance that moves you around from point A to point B. I guess it'd be like buying a horse in the olden times, but it's a struggle. No one likes to do it. But again, these things that we'll talk about could help you bridge the gap between dealing with that used car salesman that you don't like to. That's a gap I have to bridge. I hate buying cars, quite frankly, unless I absolutely know exactly what I want and can just peel the $100 bills off in the person's hand. So it could be something as minuscule as that in our universe, could be the biggest things of all, like what are extraterrestrials? What are angels?
Angels.
We'll talk about that too. And an angel could be a used car salesman, so you better watch out.
Guides, angels, ghosts. We even deal with ghosts.
A lot of ghosts,
A lot of ghosts.
All right. So again, lots of gaps to bridge, and some of these could be personal for you. Some of these could be large and could be involving everybody on the planet, could involve a certain number of people, particular situations, circumstances. We'll get into all of that. And I think that's the greatest thing about Bridging the Gap, Brenda, is there's really no end to where this can go. And just to let you know, we tape these live, in essence. They're not broadcast to you live, not yet anyway, with a few bullet points as far as what we want to talk about, but really the show flourishes onto its own. So in a way, we are guided to talk about what we are supposed to.
Our radio shows are amazing because we'll start with something and it just evolves. So it really is, we hope it's a very spirit-guided production. And I think it's going to be very good for us, very good for everybody listening.
Absolutely.
That's the whole idea of this.
It is the whole idea, and the whole idea, again, if you haven't listened to the promo just yet or watched it, is finding out who you really are, why you are here.
Exactly.
Why we are here collectively,
Exactly.
larger, bigger picture than that. So, again, these shows kind of take on a manifestation of their own, and Brenda alludes to the radio program Bridging the Gap, which became that early 2012. I have been partnered with Brenda for this endeavor for about 5 months, and Brenda, it started as a radio show about a year ago. You had another host, and then when I came into the fold, things have evolved a little bit now with the television project, and it really is a whole project called Bridging the Gap. We're looking to get out there and visit with you, perhaps if we're in your region, with what we call psychic improvs. You can find out more information on our website about that. Whole gambit of things that we're going to be doing as far as these types of things are concerned.
And, it all started with my asking, what do you want me to do with this gift? And lots of people right now have gifts, and they're saying, what can I do with this? What am I supposed to do? I live in a vacuum, a spiritual vacuum. I hear that a lot. No, you don't. You absolutely do not. When you decide that you want to learn more, you'll learn more. You'll get your teachers, your guides, whatever. We're part of it. There'll be other guides and teachers.
And they're all around us too, so you will be able to open yourself up to who those people are and draw them to you as well.
It's amazing.
Energies.
Just amazing, the wonderful people that I've met. And you've met some phenomenal people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you've met Brenda a little bit, and you know more about her, and again, you'll get to know her, obviously, as Bridging the Gap continues. I'll explain a little bit about my position in all of this. Radio, television personality for 12 years here in our region of Washington State, which is where this show is broadcast to you from, at least for the time being. And always had an interest in this stuff, Brenda. Really always wanted to do this, quite frankly. As time progresses, I'll get into a story, talk about how I always wanted to have a program like this to be able to host in one way or another, and now I have several involving the same project.
Exactly.
So again, there's no question about it that the fates have drawn the two of us together to do something. We both, by the way, are very, very much wanting to produce something for people that they can use, that is helpful, and even though we'll joke around, have some fun with stuff, love is again at the core of all of this. And
exactly.
Yeah.
How do you get to love? What's the process? Where do you go? Forgiveness, love, all of those things you heard and heard and heard. Hopefully we'll have a little bit better or different way of saying it, makes it work for you a little better, a little easier.
Absolutely. So again, that is a little bit more about why Bridging the Gap has come around. We want to put some things out there that will be of use to you. You helping you, that's the thing too. As you've kind of joked always, Brenda, with me at least, around if someone wants you to be their spiritual guru, well, then that's fine with you. You can do that and lead them around. But really, you're joking. The whole point is to empower you.
Exactly. Empower you and help you to remember why you're here and know that you're not alone. And just take back your power. There's so many little catchy phrases here, which we've said over and over and over again, and they almost get to the place where it's said that already, but it's still going back to some of the basics for us. And the fact that I've got to say now how special it is to have you helping with this and doing this, because it has evolved into something that I never thought could happen until you came on the scene. So appreciate you very much.
Well, I appreciate you very much, Brenda. And again, people may be asking too, well, what is it that makes the two of experts on this subject? And remember, there's really no such thing as an expert on this subject. You and I work on the same things that we'll talk about and hope that others will engage in with us all the time. You obviously have a gift. There's no question I have a gift. I have a gift as well. Everyone possesses a gift of one variety or another. Some may be more acute than others, but any and everybody can use this gift. We're just wanting to share some of the great experiences we've had with it in sharing with other people already and helping them with the entire world now, we're hoping.
Yeah.
So.
Everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Everybody has a ghost story. Everybody has something that's happened to them that they like to say weird. That's why I started using Woogie. Woogie's so much better.
Yeah, let's get into Woogie. W-O-O-G-I-E, which is on your license plate frame, by the way. Woogie on top, Woogie on the bottom for Woogie. So it's a double dip of it.
Exactly.
Where did that term come from? Because we'll say that all the time.
Well, like a lot of other things I've done, I stole it from one of my good friend's sons, who was a policeman actually at the time, and he said, "You must meet my mother. She is Woogie, just like you are." So it was like, I like that.
Leave it to law enforcement to coin a term that we would use in this realm. I mean, this domain, actually.
Great, big, burly, good-looking guy, and he said, Woogie.
414, we got a Woogie over on 18th Avenue, so, yeah, right. Exactly. Is Snowball picking that up, Jason? Jason is our helper off camera, by the way, too. So he is laying on the most magnificent Tibetan throw rug you've ever seen in your life right now. Brenda picked this up cheap because she was able to get a good Wuji deal when she was in the Middle East doing some work there.
Found a Tibetan who needed the money. Yeah.
Well, I think we didn't get into the rug salesman. I picked on the car salesman. A rug salesman, actually, it's a toupee salesman, right? So, you remember my father sold wigs? Of all the things to come up to, in the 60s, my father sold wigs. I'll tell you a funny story that's related to that.
He did quite well.
Yeah, he did for a while, and then the tax man came calling. So.
Okay.
So again, Brenda, it doesn't really matter what it is. And again, I think that's one of the things about, and people are going to look at this show and they're going to want to ascribe something of a definition to it. They're going to want to say, well, it's New Age, or they're going to want to say, well, it's metaphysical, or it's spiritual. That's fine. You can label it whatever you want, but just remember this. We're not pigeonholing this into crystal hugging, which, by the way, I recommend highly if you can find a big enough one.
Big one.
Yeah, Star Trek had some massive ones on that. Can you imagine the crystalline entity just giving that a big old hug? We didn't see that episode, but we'll talk later with Brenda about that. Trekkies that are out there. Doesn't really matter. We're not talking about the things that you may, again, think of as stereotypical when it comes to this subject. We are talking about, as we already said, daily life and how it can work into that, and how daily life maybe can be as magical as those pictures that we all see in our heads when we think about that.
Become magical and not mystical. Make it exciting. This thing that keeps coming, that needs to be said probably is that we have no need to convince anyone of anything or change you. If you have something that's working for you, keep it. You don't need this. But if you're lacking something, let's open up your mind a little bit. Never totally turn your mind loose. There's things that you don't want to get into, I think. So you need to have your spirit guide you with these things.
And take it at your own pace.
Your own pace, your own time.
And take what works for you. Like
Absolutely.
anything else, if you watch Bridging the Gap and you're up to episode 8 or 9 and you say, well, the first 4 didn't do much for me, but I like episode 5, or what they said in episode 11, 17, and 12 really resonates with me, that's great. That's exactly what this is all about. It's like anything else that's ever been out there that is designed to help you. And I am talking about the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, any of the works by people who I know you great respect, Neil Donald Walsh. Who's your favorite? Wayne Dyer. Yes, we'll probably hear his name every single show for a while until I get a zapper buzzer down here or something like that so it knocks off. All those people, it's designed that you take what it is that makes sense to you and works for you and use it.
Exactly. And if you're uncomfortable with something we say, fine. That's okay. You don't have to embrace everything. There's everybody has a comfort level, and it took me a long time to accept this, a long time to believe it was all right. Raised very fundamentalist. I was terrified of it, so I had a real problem with it for a long time. I had to be convinced that there was a God involved in this, and it's just that God can be she, he, Buddha, whoever. It's one source, one love.
And although I'm a bit your understudy as far as years and age is concerned, one of the things that keeps popping up, I know, Brenda, and it's more through my professional life than anything at this time, is that no matter who I encounter that defines this power, this force, this energy that is around them, that it seems to be around us all, in their estimation, after they've lived a few years, no matter what they call it, whether it is God, whether it's Allah, whether it's Yahweh, whether it's Source, the universe, whatever you're comfortable with, I think when we can get to the point where we all recognize that we are talking about the same thing, that's when we've bridged the gap for all of us together. That's when everybody can hold hands around the world and have a Coke and a smile and forget about it, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay, you think that's going to happen soon?
By the way, we'd love to have you as a sponsor, Coke, so come on board. Corporate sponsors are welcome for Bridging the Gap. Brenda Burgett, intuitive medium, spiritual advisor. I'm Chris Hansen. Ian Hansen, but I did it. Of all the things, I did it too. So we should probably explain that as well.
Let's explain that.
All right. For the purposes of bridging the gap, I am using the last 3 letters of my given name, Christian. Although I've worked in local media circles here as Chris Hansen for a long time, I've chosen to take the name Ian for all the projects that have to do with bridging the gap. So that's the last time you'll hear me do that.
And you'll find a lot of people will tell you this. Once they open up and embrace some of the spiritual things that we're going to be talking about, they do change their names. You'll hear people say that. Some of the seminars I really want you to go to, and some of the people we're going to meet, they'll tell you the same thing. Did you change your name? Who are you?
Okay, interesting.
It's very interesting.
Well, again, spiritual advisor and intuitive medium Brenda Burgett with us here on the program today. I'm Ian Hansen, your host. Bridging the Gap, the television project, has officially launched. This is episode 1 of the show. Look for one of these a week. We plan to put these up for you probably on Friday or Saturday evenings. We haven't decided yet, but you just look after the website. It's bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com. And by the way, one of the things we'll do every week, Brenda, is get at least 1 or 2 questions that you may have for Brenda. And yes, we are talking about her intuitive side being put to work for you. So if there's something that's troubling you, something you just want to know, maybe you lost your car keys and you need to find them because you'd like to start your car to drive it to work on Monday morning after the big long holiday bash weekend that you had, Brenda might be able to help you find those keys. So get her your questions. Again, you can do that at questions@bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com. Go to the website, there's a form you fill out, and we'll take it from there, and we'll take 1 question this week, actually, Brenda, will we not?
That's a great idea.
Okay, very good. And this one I do have written down. By the way, Bridging the Gap, just as we would have it, just as I love to do TV and radio, totally unscripted. Again, just a few things written down on a piece of paper here for us to talk about. Otherwise, it's all guided by the 2 of us and whatever comes through to work. But the questions are scripted because I can't necessarily remember what everybody says. So, Brenda, you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Okay. Energy's cleared around you. You're feeling good?
Feeling good.
All right. Here's this week's question. First one. And we thank Tani who sends this in and is apparently in the desert Southwest. It says there is a skylight in the house that I am currently renting. I am house sitting in this particular residence for a friend, and it's massive, this place, she says. 7,000 square foot home in the New Mexico desert. Wow. In one area of the home, there is a large skylight, which has been the hub of some very strange activity over the past few weeks. The dog has been constantly attracted to this space just below this skylight and is always looking up with great curiosity at it. And I have had several experiences where I have seen bright light emanating through it, even in the middle of the night. That's got to be something when you're on the way to the latrine, at 3 in the morning and then just want to hustle back to bed. Here's your question then. Is what I'm seeing anything at all, or in particular, they are wondering, is it an extraterrestrial or interdimensional spacecraft or something else? I'm not really afraid of it, but I am a little curious.
Now this is a little different this time because this is actually, I was on the phone with this lady when she called with the
question. Oh, you were?
Yes,
okay.
I was. And I immediately saw, I think it was 10 o'clock at night. She's out in the middle of the desert. There are no neighbors. There's no lights, no street lights. And she said, I'm feeling very peculiar, that I'm not comfortable. Maybe it's the size of this house, whatever. But what's going on? And I immediately saw bright lights over her head.
Really?
And she and I have been friends for a long time, so I was very comfortable saying, your bright lights are just, your head is just covered and bathed in bright lights. And I heard her scream.
She screamed?
It frightened her because she looked up and there was bright lights in the skylight in the middle of the night.
Wow.
So what came through that, and a little bit about what I'm adding to this now with what's coming through. It's a little bit different than what we normally do. I don't like to hear the mess or the question, then we just go into it. But what happened was, there was definitely something overhead. What would it be? Santa Fe, New Mexico, huge area where there's so many sightings from people who are not are not off the deep end of anything. They see extraterrestrial. They see things. And was that what it was? I'm almost for sure it's what it was.
Okay.
And then the dog, which was the bird dog. She's 2 bird dogs there, and I love bird dogs, but they're not maybe poodle mentality. They're a little bit like a 3-year-old boy, like.
We actually live next door to one, and it does circles in the yard constantly. I think it's worn rings where you could actually plant a new Stonehenge and have it upright for a while.
And the owner needs to get in touch with its dog. But in this particular case, the dog would walk and look up at the skylight and just look. Didn't bark or anything, just looked. And she said she'd noticed during the day that it was just looking. So she said, well, do they just come at night or do they just come at day? I don't know. It seemed daytime. I'm thinking because she's as open as she is and it's out in the middle of nowhere and she's the only one in the house. Perfect setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We will not get into, I imagine, what these beings are just yet. We'll save that for future episodes of the program.
And we don't know what they are. We just have to open our minds up a little bit, the possibility of that may be what it was. Or it could have been the gardener up there with a floodlight putting it up through. It makes more sense to me to think it was a space extraterrestrial. That's the only thing that makes any sense.
Now I would have to think, and again, ladies, forgive me, but in the middle of the night, if you're just tiptoeing your way to the bathroom or for a midnight snack or something, and it was the gardener that was shining a light down through the skylight, you'd probably have some recollection of a big muscled man who was up there with a rake and all sweaty. And
actually, he only comes on every other Thursday or something. So, it's not a regular gardener, but, anything can happen, I guess.
We're talking ETs right now. I think we should probably talk Fabio, because I've always wondered if that guy is real or not, too. So we'll get into that, too.
It doesn't matter. He looks so good. Do we care?
Does he now?
I don't know.
He's been reduced to doing I Can't Believe It's Not Butter commercials, Brenda. I'm not exactly sure that's highbrow material for him. So
well, I don't.
We'd love to have Fabio on the show sometime,
we would
too.
love to.
I'll control him from behind, too. Oh, don't knock over our cheap set either, Chris. That'd be a bad idea. So, Brenda, thanks for answering the question. And again, thanks to the folks that write in their questions. You can do that. That would be through Brenda's new website, our website. It's the Bridging the Gap Project. It's online, bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com. Get your questions there. It's questions@bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com. If you want to get them to Brenda directly without going to the website, you can do that as well. Also, you can send us personal emails too via the contact box that is located on that same website. Again, bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com. And Brenda, I think we're finished out with episode 1. Anything to add to this? This was kind of the introduction to Bridging the Gap.
We're doing personal appearances. If anyone would like a benefit, a charity thing, we'd be happy to work with them.
Okay.
We'll do small groups, 10, 20 people. I think the more people that we meet, the better this is going to work. Until, of course, we hit the big time, and then we won't be available for 10. So
I would love to think that we would still make ourselves available.
Do you think so?
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you imagine waltzing into the middle of the UN and helping them bridge the gap? I mean,
what is this?
I'm thinking that the Tunisian embassy obviously needs our help right now. So actually, I have no idea what's going on there.
Lithuania is
her country is Lithuania.
Yes.
Okay.
But anyway, we'll still remain the same sweet, humble people that we are now.
We call them psychic improvs, and it is fun to get out around a group of folks and have them, again, interact with us, in particular Brenda as the conduit, to get some of their questions answered. We talk about everything. At the one improv that we did recently, we had folks, again, asking about new cars that they were going to buy, certainly new relationships they were going to get in, the whens and wheres. Folks that had relatives who were expecting and wanted to know what sex and what health the baby was going to be of. Things of just our general nature. And then we had some in the front row who were causing all kinds of ruckuses and wanted to talk about portals to other dimensions and
it's very, very
asteroid fields.
And those questions were valid. They were good questions.
Absolutely.
They just were not questions I could answer. And I'll be the first one to tell you I don't have all the answers.
And I think it should also be said as we close the book again on Bridging the Gap, chapter 1 here, or episode 1, that Brenda's gift, as well as mine, quite frankly, folks, even as a host or as a jolly person who kind of directs traffic here, the gifts really do work through us, Brenda, in particular you, as far as the answers to folks' questions are concerned. These don't necessarily come from you. You are open to something that is answering these questions for people. And again, the bottom line is we want people to know how to get in touch with that for themselves so they answer their own questions.
Be your own guru.
That's right. Be your own guru. And until the next time on Bridging the Gap, the television show, enjoy your existence. I'm Ian Hansen. That's Brenda Burgett. We'll talk to you next time.